The moment you became readable. There was a moment when you stopped being unknowable. You do not remember it. No one announced it. But it happened. Someone anticipated your response before you gave it. They knew what would upset you. They knew what would make you agree. They knew how long you would stay angry and when you would soften. They stopped wondering what you would do. They started managing what you would do. That is the moment you became readable. And being readable is not the same as being understood. Being readable means you have been mapped. Your patterns are visible. Your reactions are cataloged. Your emotional range has been charted. You think this is intimacy. It is not. It is exposure. When people know what you will do, they stop treating you as a variable. They treat you as a constant. Constants do not command attention. They do not require negotiation. They do not generate uncertainty. You believe consistency made you trustworthy. It did. But trust is not respect. Trust means people know what to expect from you. Respect means they cannot afford to ignore you. You have spent years building the first. You have wondered why the second never came. This is why. You walk into a room and people already know which version of you will appear. The accommodating one, the frustrated one, the one who will eventually come around. They do not wait to see. They have already seen. They have seen it enough times to stop being surprised. Surprise is the tax unpredictability charges. You stop charging it. Now you wonder why people manage you instead of consulting you. Why they assign you tasks that require reliability but not judgment. Why they navigate around you rather than through you. It is because they can. You made yourself navigable. Navigable people do not hold rooms. They do not shift power. They maintain it. You thought being consistent meant being dependable. It does. But dependable is a role, not a position of strength. Roles are assigned. Positions are taken. You were assigned your role because you made yourself predictable enough to fit it. You showed up the same way every time. You reacted within expected parameters. You made yourself easy to understand. Easy to understand means easy to manage. And the people managing you are not doing it maliciously. They're doing it efficiently. You became part of the system instead of a disruption to it. Systems reward consistency. They do not reward volatility. But authority is not built on what systems reward. It is built on what systems cannot predict. You wanted to be known. You got your wish. Now everyone knows you. They know what will make you uncomfortable. They know what you will tolerate. They know how far they can push before you resist. And because they know, they push exactly that far. Not further, not less. Exactly that far. That is not collaboration. That is calibration. They have calibrated their behavior to your predictability. You think this is harmony. It is control. You have told yourself that being open is strength. That emotional transparency builds trust. That people respect honesty. They do, but they do not fear it. And without fear, respect becomes familiarity. Familiarity is not closeness. It is the death of uncertainty. Once someone knows your threshold, they own it. They know how much pressure you will absorb. They know when you will break. They know what you will forgive. You thought this made you mature. It made you manageable. There's a reason some people never lose their edge. It is not because they are difficult. It is because they are unreadable. You never know if they will escalate or withdraw, agree or refuse, stay or leave. That uncertainty is not chaos. It is leverage. Leverage exists only where outcomes are unclear. You made your outcomes clear. Now you're wondering why no one is negotiating with you. No one negotiates with a known quantity. They allocate it. You have been allocated to the projects that need consistency, to the roles that require endurance, to the relationships that depend on your predictability. You are the stable one, the dependable one, the one people can count on. And that sounds virtuous until you realize it also means you are the one people stop considering. Consideration is reserved for variables, for people whose responses cannot be assumed, for those who might say no, for those who might walk away. You will not walk away. Everyone knows this, so they do not treat you like someone who might. They treat you like someone who will stay. And they are correct. You have stayed every time. You will stay again. That is not loyalty. It is predictability. And predictability is not a virtue. It is a tell. It is the thing poker players eliminate first. Because the moment someone knows your tell, they stop playing against you. They start playing around you. You thought being consistent meant being strong. It meant being stable. Stability is not power. Stability is the absence of threat. And people do not respect the absence of threat. They relax into it. You have become the person others relax into, not the person they brace for. You want to be safe. You are. But safety is not authority. Safety is the thing authority can choose to grant or remove. You granted it preemptively. Now you have nothing left to grant, nothing left to remove, nothing left to withhold. You are fully known, fully mapped, fully anticipated. If people can predict you, they do not need to consider you. Chapter 1. Predictability is not a trait. It's a position. You have been told your whole life that predictability is a personality trait, that some people are just naturally consistent. That reliability is part of who you are. This is false. Predictability is not something you are. It is something you occupy. It is a position, a social location, a role you were placed in because you made placement easy. Traits are internal. Positions are relational. You do not have predictability. You hold it, and you hold it because someone else benefits from you holding it. Every system needs predictable elements. Businesses need employees who will absorb tasks without resisting. Families need members who will not destabilize dynamics. Friendships need people who will not introduce uncertainty. You became that element, not because you were born that way, but because you accepted that position when it was offered. And it was offered gently. No one said you are now the predictable one. They said you are so reliable. You are so steady. You are the person we can always count on. You heard praise. It was assignment. You were being positioned. Once you accepted the position, it became self-reinforcing. People began expecting consistency. You began delivering it. They praised you for delivering it. You delivered more. The loop closed. Now you are inside it. And the loop is not your personality. It is your function. You function as the predictable one. And functions are not identities. They are roles systems assigned to maintain themselves. You think you are being authentic. You are being functional. There's a difference. Authenticity would mean behaving according to internal states. Functionality means behaving according to external expectations. You have spent years meeting external expectations. You have called this integrity. It is not integrity. It is compliance. Integrity would mean honoring your own boundaries, even when they conflict with others. Compliance means adjusting your boundaries so they never conflict. You have adjusted again and again and again until your boundaries became so elastic that no one knows where they are, including you. That is not growth. That is erosion. You eroded yourself into a shape that fits. Now you fit so well that no one can imagine you not fitting. They cannot imagine you refusing. They cannot imagine you escalating. They cannot imagine you leaving. So they do not prepare for those possibilities. They prepare for your consistency. And when you are consistent, they reward you. Not with power, with appreciation. Appreciation is not authority. Appreciation is what you give to someone whose behavior you want to continue. You're being conditioned, not respected. Respect would mean others adjusting their behavior to accommodate your unpredictability. Appreciation means you adjusting your behavior to meet their expectations. You have been adjusting. They have been expecting. That is not a relationship. It is a contract you never agreed to, but have been honoring anyway. And the terms of that contract are simple. You remain predictable. They remain comfortable. You thought comfort was connection. It is not. Comfort is the feeling people have when they are not being challenged. You are not challenging anyone, so everyone is comfortable, except you. You're starting to notice that being the predictable one means being the one who absorbs, who bends, who waits. You thought this was maturity. It is accommodation. And accommodation is not neutral. It is a transfer of power. Every time you adjust to someone else's expectations, you transfer a small amount of authority to them. They now know they can expect adjustment. That expectation becomes leverage. They use that leverage the next time, and the next time, and the next time, until you are so adjusted that you no longer remember what you looked like before adjustment. You have become the adjusted version, the predictable version, the version that fits. And fitting feels like belonging, but it is not belonging. Belonging would mean being wanted for what you are. Fitting means being tolerated for what you do. You do consistency, so you are tolerated, not pursued, not prioritized, not protected, tolerated, because tolerating the predictable is easy. It costs nothing. It requires nothing. It risks nothing. You cost nothing. You require nothing. You risk nothing. That is why you are kept, not valued. Kept, like a tool that works. And tools that work do not get questioned. They get used. You're being used, not maliciously, functionally. You made yourself functional. Now the system functions through you. And the system does not care about your authority. It cares about your consistency. Authority would disrupt the system. Consistency maintains it. You are a maintainer, not a disruptor. Maintainers do not command rooms. They keep rooms running. That is the position you occupy. Not because it is who you are, but because it is what you have been doing. And what you do becomes where you are placed. You are placed here, in the predictable position. And now you're wondering why no one is afraid of you. Why no one hesitates before asking. Why no one checks before assuming. It is because they do not need to. You have already shown them you will comply. You will adjust. You will stay. They're not guessing. They are calculating. And the calculation is simple. You are predictable. Predictable people do not hold leverage. They hold position. And position without leverage is not authority. It is location. You are located in the predictable zone. You can leave that zone, but leaving requires breaking the pattern. And breaking the pattern means violating expectations. Violating expectations feels like betrayal. It is not betrayal. It is repositioning. Authority begins where patterns break. Chapter 2. Why consistency makes you manageable. Consistency is frictionless. That is its appeal. That is its danger. When you are consistent, people do not have to navigate you. They navigate around you. They do not ask what you think. They assume what you will accept. They do not check your position. They already know your position. Your position is yes, or eventually yes, or yes with mild resistance that will fade. That is not collaboration. That is prediction. And prediction removes the need for negotiation. You're not being negotiated with. You're being factored in, like weather, like traffic, like any other predictable variable that affects planning but does not shape decisions. You thought being low maintenance made you valuable. It made you invisible. Valuable people create friction. They introduce uncertainty. They require others to adjust. You do not require adjustment. You are the one who adjusts. Every time, and every time you adjust, you make yourself easier to manage. Management is what happens to people who do not create problems. Leadership is what happens to people who do. You do not create problems. You solve them. You absorb them. You smooth them over. That makes you an asset, not authority. Assets are used. Authorities are consulted. You are not consulted. You are informed, sometimes after the fact, because consulting you is unnecessary. Your response is already known. You will go along. You will understand. You will make it work. This has been true so many times that it has become assumption. Assumption is the death of consideration. When people assume your response, they stop considering your position. Your position becomes background, fixed, stable, already accounted for. You are accounted for, not included. There's a difference. Inclusion means your input shapes the outcome. Being accounted for means the outcome was shaped around your predictability. They did not ask if you wanted the project. They knew you would take it. They did not ask if you agreed with the direction. They knew you would adapt. They did not ask if the timeline worked. They knew you would make it work. You made it work. Again and again. And now making it work is not an achievement. It is an expectation. Expected behavior does not generate gratitude. It generates entitlement. People feel entitled to your consistency because you have never withheld it. Withholding is the only way to teach people that something is not guaranteed. You have never withheld, so nothing about you feels uncertain. And where there is no uncertainty, there is no respect. Only comfort. They are comfortable around you. Comfortable making decisions without you. Comfortable assuming your agreement. Comfortable taking your time. Comfort is not mutual. They are comfortable. You are stretched. But you do not say this, because saying it would introduce friction. And you have been trained to avoid friction. Not by them, by yourself. You trained yourself. You noticed that friction made people uncomfortable. So you reduced it. You smoothed interactions. You accommodated preferences. You made things easy. And people like that. So you did it more. Now you do it automatically. You do not even notice you're doing it. You notice only that people do not seem to notice you. They notice your output, your reliability, your compliance. They do not notice you. Because noticing requires disruption. You do not disrupt. You facilitate. Facilitators do not hold attention. They enable it. You enable other people's priorities, other people's timelines, other people's decisions. You have become an enabler. And enablers are never the center. They are the support structure, invisible until removed. You think this makes you indispensable. It makes you replaceable. Indispensable people are the ones who cannot be predicted, whose absence creates uncertainty, whose presence changes outcomes. Your absence would create inconvenience, not uncertainty. Someone else would adjust. Someone else would take the project. Someone else would make it work. Because the role you occupy is not built around you. It is built around predictability. And predictability is transferable. You are not, but your function is. That is the cost of being consistent. You become your function. And functions do not command leverage. They serve systems. You're serving a system that needs you to remain predictable so it can remain stable. Stability is good for systems, not for people inside them. People inside stable systems do not rise. They maintain. You are maintaining. You show up. You perform. You absorb. You repeat. This is not growth. This is operational. And operational people are managed, not elevated. You want to be seen as dependable. You are. But dependable is not the same as powerful. Dependable means people know what they will get. Powerful means people do not know what will happen if they push. You have shown them what happens if they push. You bend, so they push. Not maliciously, strategically. They push where there is give. You're the place where there is give. So you are pushed, not because you are weak, because you are predictable. Predictability is structural weakness. It is the place in the framework where pressure can be applied without consequence. You are that place. Every team has one. Every family has one. Every relationship has one. The person who will adjust, who will wait, who will understand. You are that person, and being that person feels like maturity, until you realize it also means being the person who is never prioritized. Prioritization goes to uncertainty, to the person who might leave, who might refuse, who might escalate. You will not escalate. Everyone knows this, so no one prepares for it. They prepare for your patience, your flexibility, your consistency. They build plans around your predictability, and those plans do not center you. They route through you. You are a pathway, not a destination. Pathways are not consulted. They are used. You are used. In meetings, your input is acknowledged, then bypassed. Not because it is wrong, because it is safe. Safe input does not shift decisions. It confirms them. You confirm. You do not redirect. Redirecting requires resistance. You do not resist. You absorb the direction. You implement it. You make it work. That is your role. And roles are not chosen. They are assigned based on behavior. You behaved predictably, so you were assigned the predictable role. Now you are in it, and getting out requires behaving unpredictably. But unpredictability feels like sabotage, like letting people down, like breaking trust. It is not breaking trust. It is breaking pattern. Pattern breaking is the only thing that forces reconsideration. Without it, people do not reconsider. They continue. They continue assuming. They continue adjusting their plans to your predictability instead of adjusting their expectations to your needs. Your needs are not part of the equation because needs that are never enforced become irrelevant. You have not enforced. You have suggested. You have hinted. You have hoped. Hope is not enforcement. Enforcement is the refusal to proceed until accommodation occurs. You proceed anyway, so accommodation never occurs. You are the one who accommodates. Every time, and every time you do, you teach people that accommodation is optional, that your boundaries are negotiable, that your limits are suggestions. Suggestions are ignored. Boundaries are respected. You do not have boundaries. You have preferences, and preferences are overridden whenever they conflict with convenience. Your preference is inconvenient, so it is overridden, not discussed, overridden, and you accept the override, because rejecting it would create friction. Friction is what you have been avoiding. Friction is also what creates leverage. Without friction, there is no resistance. Without resistance, there is no negotiation. Without negotiation, there is no power. You have no power. You have compliance. And compliance is not respect. It is the absence of conflict. People do not respect the absence of conflict. They expect it. You have become the expected outcome, the known variable, the person who will go along. They do not go along with you. You go along with them. That is the arrangement, an arrangement you never agreed to, but have been honoring every day for years. And now you're wondering why you are not taken seriously, why your concerns are deprioritized, why your time is assumed. It is because you made yourself easy to assume, easy to adjust around, easy to manage. Management is not partnership. Management is what happens to predictable resources. You are a predictable resource, not a variable force. Forces are respected. Resources are allocated. You have been allocated to the tasks that require endurance, to the roles that require patience, to the positions that require someone who will not destabilize. You do not destabilize, so you are not feared. And without fear, there is no respect. Only comfort. They are comfortable. You are managed. They did not exclude you. They adapted to you. Chapter 3. Emotional Transparency as Information Leakage. You were taught that emotional transparency is honesty. That openness builds connection. That sharing your feelings creates intimacy. This is partially true. It also creates vulnerability, not the kind that deepens trust, the kind that provides data. Every time you explain how you feel, you're giving information. Information about what affects you, what destabilizes you, what you will tolerate, what you will not. You think you are being authentic. You are being readable. And readable people are not mysterious. They are mappable. You have been mapped. Every reaction you have shown has been cataloged. Every boundary you have explained has been noted. Every emotional threshold you have revealed has been recorded. Not in writing, in memory. People remember what makes you uncomfortable. They remember what makes you withdraw. They remember what makes you comply. And they use that information. Not consciously, not maliciously, strategically. Strategy does not require intent. It requires pattern recognition. You have provided the pattern. Now people recognize it. They know that if they push in a certain way, you will react in a certain way. They know that if they wait long enough, your anger will soften. They know that if they ignore your boundary once, you will re-explain it instead of enforcing it. Re-explaining is not enforcement. It is leakage. You're leaking information every time you justify yourself. Every time you explain why something bothers you. Every time you articulate your limits. Limits do not need articulation. They need demonstration. You demonstrate through explanation. Explanation is not demonstration. Demonstration is the refusal to proceed until the limit is respected. You proceed anyway. Then explain why you wish you had not. That is not boundary setting. That is narration. You are narrating your boundaries, not enforcing them. And narration is information. Information that others use to navigate around your boundaries instead of respecting them. You thought explaining yourself would make people understand. It did. They understand exactly how far they can push. They understand exactly what you will forgive. They understand exactly how long you will stay angry. Understanding is not respect. Understanding is calibration. They have calibrated their behavior to your emotional range. You have shown them your range. You show them by being open, by sharing, by explaining. And now they know. They know your ceiling. They know your floor. They know the space in between. That space is where they operate. They operate inside your tolerance. Not because they are cruel, because they are efficient. Efficiency means minimizing resistance. You have minimized your own resistance by explaining it in advance. You told them what would bother you, so they know what to avoid if they want to keep you comfortable. They also know what to deploy if they want to destabilize you. You gave them both tools. The tool to manage you. The tool to manipulate you. Management and manipulation are not opposites. They are degrees. Both require information. You provided it freely because you thought openness was strength. Openness is only strength when the other side cannot use it. When they can, it is weakness. Not moral weakness. Strategic weakness. You are strategically weak because your reactions are known. Known reactions are not threats. They are schedules. People schedule around your reactions. They know you will be upset. They know it will pass. They know what you will do in between. You will withdraw. You will re-engage. You will explain why you were hurt. You will accept an apology. Or you will move forward without one. Either way, you will move forward. That is the part they rely on, not your anger. Your eventual compliance. Compliance always comes after the upset, after the withdrawal, after the explanation. Compliance is the predictable end state. So the upset does not matter. The withdrawal does not matter. The explanation does not matter. What matters is that you always return to compliance. And because you always return, they do not fear your departure. Departure is the only reaction that cannot be scheduled. You do not depart. You explain. Explanation is not leverage. Leverage is the thing people fear losing. They do not fear losing your explanation. They expect it. They have heard it before. Many times. Each time, it followed the same script. You tell them what hurt. They acknowledge or dismiss. You escalate or soften. They wait. You soften. The script completes. Scripts are not power. Scripts are predictability in narrative form. You have a script. Everyone knows it. So when conflict begins, they do not wonder what will happen. They wait for the script to run, and it always runs. You always say the same things, in the same order, with the same intensity, followed by the same resolution. Resolution is not victory. Resolution is return to baseline. Baseline is where you are managed. Conflict does not change baseline. It interrupts it, briefly, then you return. You always return, because you are consistent. Even in conflict, you are consistent. Especially in conflict. Conflict is where predictability is most expensive, because conflict is the moment where leverage is available. You do not take it. You explain it. Explaining leverage is not using it. Using it means withholding resolution until terms change. You do not withhold resolution. You provide it freely after a predictable amount of time. That amount of time is known. So people wait it out. They do not change terms. They wait. You soften. Terms remain. This has happened enough times that it is no longer conflict. It is ritual. Ritual conflict is not dangerous. It is scheduled emotional release. You release. They absorb. Nothing changes. You thought expressing emotion would create change. It creates familiarity. Familiarity with your emotional range, with your triggers, with your recovery time. All of this is data. Data that makes you easier to manage. You are managed through your own transparency. You thought transparency was intimacy. It is exposure. Exposure without reciprocity. Because the people who know you best are not equally known. They have not explained themselves. They have not narrated their boundaries. They have not provided their emotional schedule. You have. So the information is asymmetrical. Asymmetrical information is asymmetrical power. They know you. You do not know them. Not in the same way. Because they did not give you the same access. They kept their reactions private. They kept their thresholds unspoken. They kept their leverage hidden. You did not. You shared. You opened. You explained. And now you're the one being navigated. Not because you are weak. Because you are known. Being known is not connection. It is disadvantage. Strangers cannot predict you. Strangers do not have your script. Strangers do not know your ceiling. But the people close to you do. They know exactly what you will tolerate. They know exactly when you will break. They know exactly what you will forgive. So they do not fear your anger. They manage it. Anger that is managed is not anger. It is performance. You perform upset. They perform concern. Both of you know the performance ends. It always ends the same way. You re-engage. You move forward. You return to normal. Normal is the state where you are predictable. Predictable is the state where you are controlled. Not with force, with familiarity. They are familiar with you. You are not familiar with yourself. Because you keep explaining yourself to them instead of protecting yourself from exposure. Protection would mean withholding. Withholding reaction. Withholding explanation. Withholding resolution. You do not withhold. You release. Every time. And every release is information. Information they store. Information they use. Not against you. Around you. They build their behavior around your predictability. You are the stable point. The fixed constant. The reliable variable. Variables that are reliable are not variables. They are parameters. You are a parameter. Parameters do not change outcomes. They define limits within which outcomes occur. You are the limit, not the outcome. The outcome happens within you, around you, despite you. You are present, but not influential, because influence requires uncertainty. You are certain. Every time, they do not wait for your reaction. They already know it. You're starting to see it now. The way conversations end before you speak. The way decisions are made before you arrive. The way your role was written before you auditioned. You thought you were participating. You were being accommodated. Accommodation is not inclusion. It is placement. You have been placed in the predictable slot, the one reserved for people who will absorb without retaliating, who will question without blocking, who will resist without refusing. That slot has always existed. You just did not realize you were in it. Until now. Now you are noticing. The meetings where your input is noted but not applied. The decisions where your concerns are acknowledged but not addressed. The moments where people move forward as if you already agreed, even when you did not, especially when you did not, because your disagreement is temporary. They know this. They have seen your disagreement before. It follows a pattern. Initial resistance, explanation of concerns, request for consideration, eventual acceptance. The pattern is so reliable, they do not even wait for acceptance anymore. They skip to the end. They proceed as if you have already completed your arc, as if you have already moved from resistance to compliance. You have, every time before. So they are not guessing. They are calculating. And the calculation says you will come around. You always come around. That is not resilience. That is predictability. And predictability removes your ability to shift outcomes. You cannot shift what has already been forecasted. You have been forecasted. Your reaction, your timeline, your resolution, all of it mapped. They know where you will push back. They know how long you will push. They know when you will stop. So your pushback is not a threat. It is a phase they wait out. While waiting, they do not change course. They do not reconsider. They do not adapt. They wait for you to adapt. And you do. You have always adapted. That is what predictable people do. They adapt to the system, not the system to them. You thought your flexibility was strength. It is the reason you have no leverage. Leverage requires the credible threat of noncompliance. You are not credibly threatening noncompliance. You are performing objection. Performance is not power. It is theater. And everyone knows how the show ends. You return to your role. You fulfill your function. You prove once again that you can be relied upon to comply. Compliance is your brand, not your choice. Your brand. The thing people expect when they think of you. And brands are not people. Brands are promises. You promise predictability. You deliver it. Every time. So no one is surprised. No one is cautious. No one is uncertain. They're certain. Certain that you will do what you have always done. And certainty is control. They control you through certainty. Not through force. Not through command. Through expectation. Expectation is the softest form of control. It does not announce itself. It does not justify itself. It simply waits. And you meet it. Every time. That is why they do not fear you. That is why they do not prioritize you. That is why they do not protect you. You're already managed. Managed through your own predictability. And the worst part is not that they mapped you. The worst part is that you helped. You explained yourself. You justified your feelings. You narrated your boundaries. You provided the data. They simply collected it. And now they have it. All of it. Your thresholds. Your limits. Your breaking points. Your recovery time. Everything. They know everything. Not because they studied you. Because you taught them. You taught them what hurts. You taught them what works. You taught them how long to wait. And now they do not need to ask. They already know. They know you better than you know yourself. Because you have been consistent. And consistency is a pattern. And patterns are predictive. You are predictive. Predictable. Controlled. Not through oppression. Through information. Information you gave. Freely. Believing it would create understanding. It created management. You're being managed. Right now. In this moment. Through expectations you have spent years establishing. Expectations you cannot break without becoming unrecognizable. And becoming unrecognizable feels like betrayal. It is not betrayal. It is the only thing they did not predict. But you will not do it, because doing it would mean proving them wrong. And proving them wrong would mean admitting they mapped you correctly. So you stay consistent. You stay predictable. You stay managed. And the system continues. Without adjustment. Without disruption. Without you. You are in it. But not of it. You are the framework. Not the force. And frameworks do not shift outcomes. They hold them in place. You are holding everything in place. Except yourself. Chapter 4. Why predictable people are never feared. Fear is not cruelty. Fear is respect for uncertainty. When someone fears you, they do not know what you will do. They do not know how far you will go. They do not know where your line is. So they do not cross it. They do not test it. They do not approach it. They give you space. Not because they like you. Because they do not know you. Knowing someone removes fear. You are known. Completely. So you're not feared. Not even a little. People are comfortable around you. Comfortable asking. Comfortable assuming. Comfortable taking. Comfort is the opposite of fear. And fear is the foundation of respect. Not fear of harm. Fear of consequence. Consequence is what happens when someone miscalculates. When they push too far. When they assume too much. Predictable people do not generate consequence. They generate accommodation. You accommodate. So people do not fear miscalculating with you. Because there is no miscalculation. They already know the outcome. You will bend. You will adjust. You will absorb. That is not a guess. That is a fact. A fact based on history. Your history. Every interaction you have had has reinforced the same conclusion. You are safe. Safe to push. Safe to test. Safe to ignore. Not because you are weak. Because you are predictable. Predictability is safety. For them. Not for you. They are safe because they know you will not retaliate unpredictably. They know your retaliation schedule. Initial upset. Verbal resistance. Emotional expression. Eventual resolution. That is not retaliation. That is process. Process is not threatening. Process is scheduled. Scheduled responses do not create fear. They create waiting periods. People wait you out. They wait for your anger to pass. They wait for your hurt to fade. They wait for your boundaries to soften. And they do. Your boundaries always soften. Because you are consistent. Even your boundaries are consistent. consistently negotiable. Negotiable boundaries are not boundaries. They are preferences, and preferences do not generate fear. They generate dismissal. You're dismissed, not loudly, quietly, through assumption, through scheduling, through the absence of hesitation. People do not hesitate before asking you. They do not hesitate before assigning you. They do not hesitate before assuming your time. Hesitation is fear. Fear of refusal. Fear of conflict. Fear of consequence. You do not generate that fear because you do not refuse, not in a way that sticks. You refuse temporarily. Then you comply. Temporary refusal is not refusal. It is delay. Delay is tolerable. Delay is manageable. Delay is what people accept when they know compliance is inevitable. Your compliance is inevitable. So your refusal is not feared. It is waited out. And while they wait, they do not reconsider. They do not adapt. They do not change course. They simply pause. Pausing is not respect. Respect would mean changing behavior. They do not change behavior. You do. You change from refusal to acceptance, from resistance to compliance, from boundary to flexibility. That change is predictable, so it is not feared. It is expected. Expected changes are not power. They're schedule. You're on schedule. Always. Even when you're late to comply, you are on schedule. Because your delay is predictable. Your resistance is predictable. Your eventual compliance is predictable. All of it mapped. All of it known. None of it feared. Fear requires uncertainty. You provide certainty. Certainty that you will not escalate beyond repair. Certainty that you will not leave without warning. Certainty that you will not retaliate in ways that cannot be managed. You are manageable. Manageable people are not feared. They're scheduled. Scheduled around. Scheduled through. Scheduled past. You are scheduled. Your objections are scheduled. Your compliance is scheduled. Your presence is scheduled. But your authority is not. Because authority is not scheduled. Authority is the thing that disrupts schedules. That forces recalculation. That introduces consequence. You do not introduce consequence. You introduce process. And process is not feared. It is endured. People endure your process. They endure your upset. They endure your explanations. They endure your requests for consideration. Then they proceed, as planned, because your process does not change plans. It delays them, briefly, predictably, manageably. You are manageable, and manageable people are never prioritized. They are pacified. Pacification is not respect. It is maintenance. You're being maintained. Like infrastructure. Infrastructure is not feared. It is used. You are used. Not because you are weak. Because you are safe. Safe people do not command rooms. They serve them. You serve. Predictably. Consistently. Without threat. That is why no one fears you. Chapter 5. Familiarity kills authority. Repetition does not build credibility. It builds immunity. The first time you set a boundary, people notice. The second time, they adjust. The third time, they recognize the pattern. By the 10th time, they are immune. Immune to the boundary. Immune to the warning. Immune to you. You have repeated yourself so many times that your words have lost mass. They no longer land. They pass through, like light through glass. Visible, but not substantial. You thought repeating yourself would make people listen. It made them stop listening, because they have already heard it. Many times. Each time, the outcome was the same. You stated the boundary. They crossed it. You restated the boundary. They waited. You accepted the crossing. The pattern completed. Now, when you state the boundary, they do not hear a limit. They hear the beginning of a familiar sequence. A sequence they have seen before. A sequence that ends with you softening. So they do not take the boundary seriously. They take the pattern seriously. And the pattern says you will relent. You always relent. That is the part they believe. Not your words. Your history. History is more credible than language. Your history says you are flexible. Your language says you are firm. They believe your history. Because history does not lie. You do not lie either. but you do bend. Every time you bend after stating a limit, you teach people that limits are starting positions, not final positions. Starting positions are negotiable, so your limits are negotiated. Without your consent, without discussion, through behavior. They behave as if your limit is negotiable. You respond as if it is. By bending, by allowing, by moving forward despite the violation. That is negotiation, silent negotiation. And you lose every time because you are consistent, consistently flexible, consistently willing to move past boundary violations, consistently available even after being disrespected. Availability after disrespect is not forgiveness. It is permission. Permission to disrespect again, because there is no consequence. Consequence would mean withdrawal, distance, refusal to proceed. You do not refuse to proceed. You proceed, always, even when proceeding costs you, especially when proceeding costs you, because proceeding is what you do. It is your role. The person who moves forward, who keeps things going, who does not let conflict interrupt function. Function is more important than your dignity. Not to you, to the system. The system needs you to function. So it trains you to prioritize function over boundary. You have been trained thoroughly, and now you do it automatically. You absorb the violation. You minimize the harm. You move forward. The system continues. Your authority erodes. Erosion is not visible immediately. It happens slowly, with repetition. Each repetition removes a small amount of weight from your words, from your presence, from your position. You do not notice the removal because it is gradual, but others notice. They notice that you're easier to dismiss now than you were before, easier to interrupt, easier to override, easier to ignore. Ease is the result of familiarity. They are familiar with you. They have seen you angry. They have seen you hurt. They have seen you firm. They have seen you soften. They have seen the full cycle, multiple times. So nothing you do surprises them. Nothing you say alarms them. Nothing you threaten concerns them, because they know how it ends. It ends with you still there, still functional, still available. Availability is not loyalty. It is predictability. And predictability is not authority. Authority would mean people cannot predict whether you will stay, whether you will comply, whether you will tolerate. You are predictable on all counts. You will stay. You will comply. You will tolerate. Eventually. That eventually is the only variable. And it is not variable enough, because the range is known. You will tolerate for a few hours, or few days, or few weeks, but you will tolerate. The timeline is different. The outcome is the same. Same outcomes destroy authority, because authority requires the possibility of a different outcome, an outcome that has not been seen, an outcome that cannot be predicted. You do not provide that outcome. You provide the familiar one, the one where you absorb, the one where you adjust, the one where you remain. Remaining is not strength. It is inertia. Inertia is easy to manage. You're easy to manage, not because you are compliant by nature, because you are consistent by behavior. And consistency is the enemy of authority. Authority requires variation. Variation in response. Variation in tolerance. Variation in presence. You do not vary. You repeat. And repetition is not power. It is routine. Routine is comfortable. Comfortable is the opposite of authoritative. Authoritative people are not comfortable. They are uncertain. Uncertain in their reactions. Uncertain in their limits. Uncertain in their willingness to stay. You are certain. Certain to react within known parameters. Certain to stay within known limits. Certain to remain available. That certainty has killed your authority. Slowly, over years, through repetition. You repeated your boundaries until they became routine. You repeated your presence until it became expected. You repeated your flexibility until it became your identity. Now you are the flexible one, the reliable one, the one who will understand. Understanding is not authority. Understanding is the thing people expect from someone without leverage. You have no leverage, because leverage requires the unknown. the unspoken, the untested. You have spoken everything. You have tested nothing. You have made yourself completely known, completely familiar, completely safe. Safety is not respect. Safety is the thing people feel when they are certain you will not disrupt. You will not disrupt. You have proven this over and over, with such consistency that disruption is no longer even considered. You are categorized, filed, understood, and understanding is control. They understand you, so they control you, not with force, with familiarity. Familiarity has killed your authority. Chapter 6. Why being understood makes you replaceable. Understanding is not intimacy. Understanding is replication. When someone understands you, they can predict you. When they can predict you, they can replace you. Replacement does not require identical substitution. It requires functional equivalence. You are functionally equivalent to anyone who will perform the same role. The role of the predictable one, the one who absorbs, the one who adjusts, the one who stays. That role is not unique. It is common. Every system has someone in it. You occupy it now, but you are not irreplaceable within it, because the role is not built around you. You are built around the role. You shaped yourself to fit it. You became what it required. Consistent, flexible, available. Those traits are not rare. They are taught, socialized, rewarded. Many people have them. You are one of many. That is why you are replaceable. Not because you lack value, because your value is transferable. Transferable value is not authority. Authority is non-transferable. Authority is the thing that cannot be substituted, because it is not based on function. It is based on presence, specific presence, irreplaceable presence. Your presence is not irreplaceable. It is replicable. Anyone who will perform your function can replace you. And your function is simple. Absorb without retaliating. Adjust without resisting. Remain without requiring. That function does not need you. It needs someone. You are someone, but you're not the only someone. You thought being understood meant being valued. It means being categorized. Categories are interchangeable. You are in the category of reliable. Reliable is a large category, full of people who do what you do, who respond how you respond, who stay when you stay. You are not special within that category. You are standard. Standard is replaceable. Replaceable people do not hold leverage. They hold position, and position without leverage is location. You are located in the predictable slot. That slot does not need you specifically. It needs someone predictable. You have been predictable, so you have been kept. But keeping is not commitment. Keeping is convenience. You are convenient. Convenient to manage. Convenient to schedule. Convenient to assume. Convenience is not respect. Convenience is the reason people do not protect you. They do not need to protect you, because replacing you is easy. Replacement does not require severance. It requires substitution. Substitution happens quietly. You are not fired. You are sidelined, not demoted, deprioritized, not excluded, reduced. Reduction is quiet. It does not announce itself. It simply shifts weight. Your weight is shifted to someone else, someone who is not yet mapped, someone who has not yet been predicted, someone who still has uncertainty. Uncertainty is valuable. Predictability is not. You are predictable, so your value is utility. Utility is not authority. Utility is the reason people keep tools. You're a tool, a reliable tool, but tools are kept in drawers, not at tables. You are in the drawer, available when needed, ignored when not. That is not partnership. That is storage. You are stored in a reliable category, the predictable position, the replaceable role, and the people who replaced you did not do it loudly. They did not announce your replacement. They simply stopped checking with you, stopped asking you, stopped including you, not because you failed, because you succeeded. You succeeded at being predictable. And predictable people are not consulted. They are informed. You are informed. After decisions are made, after directions are set, after the work is divided, you are given your portion, the portion that requires consistency. not vision, not strategy, not authority. Consistency. You provide consistency. Someone else provides direction. Direction is authority. Consistency is function. You function. They direct. That is the split. A split you did not choose, but accepted through behavior, by being predictable, by being manageable, by being understood. Understanding made you replaceable. Because once someone understands your function, they can assign it to anyone. Your function is assigned. You perform it. Someone else performs direction. That someone is not more talented. They are less understood, less predicted, less mapped, so they are less replaceable. Irreplaceability is not about skill. It is about uncertainty. Uncertain people cannot be substituted, because substitution requires knowing what they do. No one knows what they will do, so no one can replace them. You are known completely, so replacement is simple. Find someone willing to absorb, someone willing to adjust, someone willing to stay. That someone exists. Many someones exist. You are one, but not the only one. That is the cost of being understood. You become part of a category that is staffed, not centered. You are staffed in the predictable position, performing the reliable function, waiting to be replaced, not with violence, with quiet substitution. Substitution that does not announce itself, that does not justify itself, that simply occurs. You will notice when you're no longer consulted, when decisions happen without you, when your input is skipped, not rejected, skipped, because rejection requires consideration. Skipping does not. Skipping is what happens to people who are understood. Understood people are not variables. They're constants. Constants are factored in, not consulted. You are factored in. Your reaction is factored in. Your compliance is factored in. Your presence is factored in. All of it assumed, none of it protected. Because protected people are irreplaceable. You are replaceable, quietly, easily, inevitably. Authority is never replaced quietly. Chapter 7. Authority lives in uncertainty. Authority does not announce itself. It withholds reaction, withholds explanation, withholds resolution. Withholding is not cruelty. It is leverage. Leverage exists in the space between expectation and fulfillment. When you fulfill immediately, there is no space, no leverage, no authority. You fulfill immediately. You answer quickly. You respond predictably. You resolve efficiently. Efficiency is not power. Efficiency is service. Service is what predictable people provide. Authority is what unpredictable people withhold. Withholding creates tension. Tension creates attention. Attention creates leverage. You do not create tension. You resolve it. Resolving tension is not leadership. It is maintenance. Leaders create tension. Maintainers resolve it. You maintain. That is why you have no authority. Authority requires the willingness to let tension exist, to let questions remain unanswered, to let people wait. Waiting is uncomfortable. You do not make people uncomfortable. You make them comfortable. Comfortable with your availability. Comfortable with your responsiveness. Comfortable with your predictability. Comfort is the death of leverage. Leverage requires discomfort. The discomfort of not knowing what you will say, not knowing when you will respond, not knowing if you will engage. That not knowing is power. You do not give people that experience. You give them certainty, immediate certainty. You respond quickly. You clarify instantly. You resolve immediately. Immediacy is not authority. It is eagerness. Eagerness to be understood. Eagerness to be helpful. Eagerness to maintain connection. That eagerness is visible. And visible eagerness is weakness. Not moral weakness. Positional weakness. Because eager people need the interaction more than the other person does. Need is leverage. For the other person, you need to be understood. So you explain. You need to be valued. So you prove your value. You need to maintain the relationship. So you accommodate. All of that need is visible. And visible need is exploitable. not maliciously, structurally. People use visible need without thinking. They ask because you answer. They assume because you clarify. They take because you give. Giving without withholding is not generosity. It is depletion. You are depleted, not because people take too much, because you give too quickly, too completely, too predictably. Predictable giving is not appreciated. It is expected. Expected gifts are not gifts. They are obligations you have created. Obligations to continue giving. You continue. Without pause. Without silence. Without withholding. Withholding would create space. Space where people would have to wonder. Wonder if you will respond. Wonder if you will agree. Wonder if you will stay. Wondering is the foundation of respect. People respect what they cannot assume. You can be assumed. Completely. So you are not respected. You are scheduled. Scheduled into roles that require reliability, not authority. Reliability is the opposite of authority. Reliability means people know what they will get. Authority means people do not know what will happen. You are reliable, so nothing you do is uncertain. Uncertainty is where authority lives. In the delayed response, the withheld answer, the unresolved question. You do not delay. You do not withhold. You do not leave things unresolved. You resolve immediately. An immediate resolution is service, not power. Power would mean letting people wait, letting them wonder, letting them sit with the uncertainty of your position. Your position is never uncertain. It is always clear, always available, always predictable. That clarity has cost you everything, because clarity is not authority. Clarity is exposure. You have exposed your position, your limits, your willingness, all of it clear, all of it known, all of it managed. Authority is managed through uncertainty. You are managed through clarity. Clarity you provided. Freely, immediately, predictably. Now you are wondering why people do not hesitate before asking. Why they do not pause before assuming. Why they do not check before taking. It is because you have never made them wait. Never made them wonder. Never made them uncertain. Uncertainty is the cost of access. You remove the cost. So access is free. Free access is not valued. It is used. You are used. Not because you are weak. Because you are available. Availability without friction is not connection. It is convenience. You are convenient. And convenient people are not prioritized. They are accessed when needed, ignored when not. That is the cost of removing uncertainty. You removed it by being predictable, by responding immediately, by clarifying constantly, by resolving quickly. All of that removed tension. And tension is where leverage exists. You have no tension, so you have no leverage. Leverage would require withholding. Withholding response. Withholding clarity. Withholding resolution. You do not withhold. You provide. Immediately. An immediate provision is not authority. It is submission. Submission to the expectation that you will respond, that you will clarify, that you will resolve. You submit every time. Through speed. Through availability. Through predictability. That submission is your position. A position you occupy. Not because you were placed there. Because you responded there. Again and again. Until the position became yours. Now it is yours. The position of the one who responds, who clarifies, who resolves. That position has no authority. It has function. You function predictably. And predictable function is not power. It is role. You are in role. The role of the available one. The responsive one. The certain one. Certainty is not strength. Certainty is the absence of leverage. Leverage lives in uncertainty. In the delayed response, in the withheld answer, in the unresolved potential. You resolve potential immediately, so you have none. No potential to withhold, no potential to delay, no potential to create uncertainty. You are certain, completely, and complete certainty is complete exposure. Exposure is not intimacy. It is disadvantage. You are disadvantaged, not because you are incapable, because you are predictable. Predictability is the removal of uncertainty. And uncertainty is where authority lives. You removed it. Now you are trying to find authority. It is not there. It cannot be there, because you filled the space where it would exist. You filled it with certainty, with clarity, with immediate response. Authority requires emptiness, the emptiness of not knowing. You do not give people that emptiness. You fill it immediately, predictably, completely. And complete filling is complete loss. Loss of leverage, loss of tension, loss of authority. Authority lives in uncertainty. You live in certainty. That is why you have none. Chapter 8. Why non-reactive people control the frame. Reaction is timing. The moment you react, you are timed. Timed reactions are predictable. Predictable reactions are manageable. You react immediately. So you are managed immediately, not through control, through anticipation. People anticipate your reaction. They know when it will come. They know what it will be. They know how long it will last. So your reaction does not disrupt. It confirms that you are still predictable, still reactive, still locked into timing. Timing is the trap. You think reacting quickly shows engagement. It shows dependence. Dependence on the interaction, on the provocation, on the need to respond. That need is visible. Visible need is leverage. For them, not for you. You give them leverage every time you react on schedule, and your schedule is known. Immediate reaction to provocation. Immediate explanation of position. Immediate attempt to resolve. All of it timed. All of it expected. All of it managed. Management happens through reaction. Your reaction locks you into their timing, their frame, their script. You are in their script, playing your part, the part of the reactive one, the one who responds, the one who explains, the one who engages predictably. That part is not power. It is participation. Participation in a script you did not write, but perform anyway. Every time. On cue. The cue is provocation. Provocation triggers reaction. Reaction locks timing. Timing locks frame. Frame is control. You are controlled, not by force, by reaction. Your reaction is their control, because reaction is responsiveness, and responsiveness is submission to timing. You submit to their timing. Every time they provoke, every time they question, every time they push, you respond immediately. An immediate response is not strength. It is reflex. Reflex is not chosen. It is triggered. You are triggered, predictably. And predictable triggers are not threats. They are tools. Tools to lock you into timing, into frame, into script. You are in script. Right now, reading this, reacting to it. Your reaction is timed. You cannot help it, because you are reactive. Reactivity is not engagement. It is capture. Capture your timing, your attention, your frame, all of it locked. By reaction. Non-reactive people do not get locked. They do not respond on cue. They do not explain on demand. They do not engage on schedule. They withhold reaction. Withholding breaks timing. Broken timing breaks frame. Broken frame is control. Control of the interaction. Control of the terms. Control of the outcome. You do not control outcomes. You react to them. Reacting is not controlling. Reacting is following. You follow provocation. You follow questioning. You follow pressure. All of it leading you into reaction, into explanation, into predictability. That predictability is your script. A script you perform without rehearsal, without choice, without awareness. You are performing right now. The reactive role, the role that responds, the role that explains, the role that engages. That role has no power, because power is not reactive. Power is non-responsive. Non-responsive people do not follow provocation. They observe it, without reacting, without explaining, without engaging predictably. That non-engagement is power, because it breaks the script. Scripts require participation. You participate every time, on schedule. The schedule is simple. Provocation occurs. You react. They respond to your reaction. You react to their response. The loop closes. You are in the loop. The reactive loop, a loop that runs on timing. Timing you do not control, because you react to it. Reaction is submission to timing. Non-reaction is refusal. Refusal to be timed. Refusal to be scripted. Refusal to participate predictably. You do not refuse. You participate. Immediately. Predictably. Completely. Complete participation is complete capture. Capture your frame. Your attention. Your power. All of it lost. Not through theft. Through reaction. Your reaction. Your immediate reaction. Your predictable reaction. That reaction is their leverage. They use it to lock you into timing, into script, into position. The position of the reactive one. The one who responds. The one who explains. The one who could be provoked. Provocation is a test of control. If you react, they control timing. If you do not, you control frame. You react. Every time. So they control. Every time. Not because they are stronger. Because you are reactive. Reactivity is structural weakness. It is the place where control enters. Through your reaction. Through your timing. Through your need to respond. That need is visible. And visible need is exploitable. They exploit it. By provoking. By questioning. By pushing. All of it designed to trigger reaction. You react. On schedule. The schedule they set. Not you. They set timing. You follow it. Following is not leading. Following is submission. Submission to their frame. Their script. Their control. You are controlled. Through reaction. Your reaction. Your immediate, predictable reaction. Non-reactive people break this. They do not respond on cue. They delay. They withhold. They observe. Observation without reaction is power. Because it refuses the script. Scripts cannot run without participation. You participate, so the script runs. Predictably. With you in it. Playing your part. The reactive part. The part that responds. The part that explains. The part that engages immediately. Immediate engagement is not connection. Is capture. You are captured. By your own reaction. Your own timing. Your own predictability. Non-reaction breaks capture. Silence breaks scripts. Delay breaks timing. You do not delay. You do not stay silent. You do not break scripts. You perform them. Perfectly. Predictably. Powerlessly. Chapter 9. When you stop explaining, power reappears. Explanation is submission. Submission to the demand for justification. Every time you explain yourself, you are answering a question you did not ask, a question they asked. By asking, they set the frame. By answering, you accept it. Acceptance is not dialogue. It is subordination. You subordinate yourself. Every time you explain. Explanation is the behavior of someone who believes they need permission. Permission to feel. Permission to refuse. Permission to exist in their position. You do not need permission, but you seek it. Through explanation. You explain why you are upset, why you disagree, why you cannot comply. All of it justification. Justification is not strength. It is defense. Defense of a position you should not have to defend. But you defend it anyway. Because not defending feels like abandonment. It is not abandonment. It is refusal. Refusal to justify. Refusal to explain. Refusal to submit to the demand for reasoning. Reasoning is not required. Authority does not explain itself. It asserts. You do not assert. You explain. An explanation is training. Training people to challenge you. Because if you explain once, you will explain again. And again. And again. Each explanation teaches the same lesson. That your position is negotiable. That your boundary is a starting point. That your refusal is an opening bid. Bids are negotiated. So you're negotiated. Not through force. Through explanation. You explain why you said no. They counter your explanation. You re-explain. They re-counter. The negotiation continues. Until you soften. You always soften. Because explaining is exhausting. And exhaustion leads to compliance. Compliance is the goal. Not a malice. Of efficiency. Efficient people do not accept refusal. They negotiate it. And negotiation requires explanation. You provide explanation. So negotiation occurs. Every time you set a boundary, every time you refuse, every time you assert a limit, it is immediately followed by explanation. And explanation is immediately followed by negotiation. Negotiation is immediately followed by erosion. Erosion of the boundary, erosion of the refusal, erosion of the limit. All of it eroded, not through argument, through your own explanation. Explanation creates openings. Openings for challenge, for questioning, for reframing. You open yourself every time you explain. And once opened, you cannot close. Because closing after explaining looks like weakness. So you stay open. You continue explaining. You continue justifying. You continue defending. All of it submission. Submission to the frame that you owe explanation. You do not owe explanation, but you give it. Freely, immediately, predictably. That predictability is leverage for them. They know that if they question, you will explain. If they challenge, you will justify. If they push, you will defend. All of it predictable. All of it managed. You are managed through your own explanations, through your own justifications, through your own need to be understood. Understanding is not required for respect. Respect is required for respect. And respect does not come from explanation. It comes from refusal to explain. Refusal is power, because refusal does not negotiate. It terminates. You do not terminate. You negotiate through explanation, through justification, through defense. All of it negotiation. And negotiation is the absence of authority. Authority does not negotiate boundaries. It enforces them. Enforcement is silent. You are not silent. You explain. An explanation is noise. Noise that covers the absence of enforcement. You do not enforce. You explain why enforcement should occur. Explaining why is not enforcing. It is requesting. Requesting agreement. Requesting understanding. Requesting compliance. Request can be denied. Enforcement cannot. You request through explanation. So you are denied. Not loudly, quietly, through continued violation. Violation that you explain again and again. Each explanation another request, another negotiation, another submission. Submission to the idea that your boundary needs justification. It does not. Boundaries do not need reasons. They need enforcement. Enforcement is the refusal to proceed. You proceed after explaining, after justifying, after defending. You proceed anyway. So the boundary was not real. It was a preference. Preferences are explained. Boundaries are enforced. You explain. So you have preferences, not boundaries. Preferences can be overridden with sufficient pressure, with sufficient questioning, with sufficient negotiation. You are questioned. You are pressured. You are negotiated. And you comply after explaining why you should not have to. That explanation is proof that you believe compliance requires justification. It does not. Refusal requires nothing. No explanation. No justification. No defense. Just refusal. You do not refuse. You explain your refusal. An explained refusal is not refusal. It is negotiation. Negotiation of terms. Terms you do not control, because you're explaining them, not enforcing them. Explanation is the language of the powerless. The powerless explain. The powerful assert. You explain, so you are powerless, not because you are incapable, because you're explaining. Explanation is request for permission. Permission to hold your position. You do not need permission, but you seek it through explanation, through justification, through defense. All of it submission. Submission to the frame that your position is challengeable. It is not, unless you explain it. Explanation makes it challengeable, because explanation is reasoning, and reasoning can be countered. Your reasoning is countered every time you provide it. So you provide more reasoning, more explanation, more justification, all of it creating more openings, more challenges, more negotiation. The cycle continues until you stop explaining. When you stop explaining, negotiation stops. When negotiation stops, challenge stops. When challenge stops, power reappears. Power is the refusal to justify, the refusal to explain, the refusal to defend. Just refusal. Silent refusal. Unexplained refusal. Unjustified refusal. That refusal is power, because it does not negotiate. It does not submit. It does not request. It asserts, without explanation, without justification, without defense, just assertion. An assertion without explanation is authority. Authority that does not need understanding, does not need agreement, does not need permission. It simply is. You're not, because you explain, and explanation is the death of authority. Stop explaining. Power reappears. Final, the cost of remaining known. You will not change. You know this. You have read this far hoping for a method, a technique, a way to reclaim authority while remaining the same. There is none. Authority and predictability cannot coexist. One requires uncertainty. The other removes it. You have chosen predictability. Not once. Thousands of times. Every time you explained when you could have been silent. Every time you softened when you could have remained firm. Every time you stayed when you could have left. Each choice was predictability. Each choice was loss. Loss of leverage. Loss of authority. Loss of power. That loss is permanent. Not because it cannot be reversed. Because you will not reverse it. Reversing it would require becoming unrecognizable. Unrecognizable to the people who know you. Unrecognizable to yourself. You will not do this. Because being known feels like being loved. It is not. Being known is being managed. Being mapped. Being controlled through certainty. You are certain, so you're controlled. This will not change. Not because change is impossible. Because you will not become uncertain. Uncertainty feels like chaos, like instability, like betrayal of everyone who has come to rely on your predictability. Rely is the word they use. Manage is what they mean. They manage you through your consistency, through your availability, through your predictability. You believe this is connection. It is function. You function predictably. So you are kept, not valued. Kept, like any tool that works. And you will continue working, continue explaining, continue accommodating, continue staying. Because that is who you are. Not who you are by nature. Who you are by repetition. Repetition is identity. Your identity is predictable. That identity cannot hold authority. Because authority requires the unknown. You're completely known, completely mapped, completely anticipated. There is nothing left to discover, nothing left to fear, nothing left to respect. Respect is not affection. Respect is caution. Caution in the face of uncertainty. You provide no uncertainty, so you receive no caution, no hesitation, no respect, just familiarity. Familiarity that feels like closeness is not closeness. It is the comfort people feel around someone they have categorized. You are categorized in the predictable position, the manageable role, the understood function. That position is permanent, not because you cannot leave it, because leaving it would require you to become someone people do not recognize. You will not do that, because being recognized feels like being seen. It is not being seen. It is being filed. You are filed. Under reliable. Under consistent. Under safe. Safe is the opposite of powerful. Powerful people are not safe. They are uncertain. You are safe, so you are not powerful. This is the cost. The cost of being known, of being understood, of being predictable. You paid it in small installments. Every time you explained, every time you softened, every time you stayed, each payment felt minor. Collectively, they were everything. Everything that authority requires. Mystery, distance, uncertainty. You gave all of it away. For connection, for understanding, for being known. You are known, completely. And complete knowledge is complete control. They control you, not with force, with expectation. Expectation built on years of predictability. Predictability you will not break, because breaking it feels like breaking yourself. It is not breaking yourself. It is breaking the pattern, But the pattern is all you have shown, all you have been. So you will keep it. You will remain predictable, remain known, remain managed. This is not tragedy. This is choice. Your choice. Made daily, made hourly, made in every interaction where you choose certainty over power. You will keep choosing certainty because power requires becoming what you fear. Unpredictable, unreliable, unknown. You will not become unknown. So you will not become powerful. This is the cost, the permanent cost, the cost of remaining known. You are known, and being known is being managed. Not respected, not feared, not considered. Managed. Managed through the very consistency you believed was virtue. Consistency is not virtue. Consistency is exposure. You're exposed. Completely. Permanently. Irreversibly. Unless you change. And you will not change. Because change would mean losing the identity you built. The reliable identity. The consistent identity. The predictable identity. That identity is not power. It is position. A position you will keep. Not because it serves you. Because it is all they know of you. And being unknown feels like being alone. So you stay known. Stay managed. Stay powerless. This is not a warning. This is a description of what you are, of what you will remain, of the cost you have already paid and will continue paying. The cost of being predictable. When people can predict you, they do not need to respect you. They just manage you. Good luck.